Have you ever met someone who seemed to thrive on making your life miserable, only to have fate serve them a bitter slice of justice? The sun hung low over Maplewood Lane, painting the suburban street in hues of amber and gold. My name is Daniel Harper, and I'd lived in this quiet neighborhood for 3 years, tending to my modest ranch-style home with its neatly trimmed lawn and vibrant garden. It wasn't much, but it was Minaya's sanctuary after long days overseeing the regional office of the city's code enforcement department. My job wasn't glamorous. It was paperwork, inspections, and mediating petty disputes between neighbors. But it was honest work, and I prided myself on fairness. Little did I know, my peaceful existence was about to be upended by a woman named Karen Milford. Karen moved into the house across the street 6 months ago, and from day one, she made her presence known. She was a heavy-set woman with a face perpetually twisted into a scowl, as if the world owed her a personal apology. Her voice carried like a foghorn, barking complaints about everything from leaf piles to mailbox colors. The neighborhood quickly learned to avoid her, but I, unfortunately, lived too close to escape her radar. It started small notes left on my doorstep about my unsightly garden gnomes, glares when I mowed my lawn on Sunday mornings. But Karen's grievances escalated when I decided to build a small shed in my backyard for my tools. "You can't just throw up a structure like that," she shrieked one afternoon, storming across the street in a floral muumuu that billowed like a sail. Her eyes, narrowed to slits, gleamed with righteous fury. "There are codes, you know. I've already reported you to the city." I stood on my porch, hammer in hand, trying to keep my composure. "Karen, I checked the regulations. The shed's within code under 120 square feet, no permit needed." Her lips curled into a sneer. "We'll see about that, Mr. Harper. I know people at code enforcement. You'll be tearing that eyesore down by next week." She spun on her heel, her muumuu flapping dramatically, and marched back to her house. I sighed, figuring she was bluffing. But the next day, a notice arrived from code enforcement, demanding an inspection of my property. Karen had followed through. The inspection was scheduled for Friday, and I spent the week preparing, double-checking measurements and zoning laws. I wasn't worried my shed was compliant, but Karen's smug grin as she watched from her porch grated on me. She'd turned a simple home improvement into a battle, and I could feel the neighborhood's eyes on us, waiting to see who'd win. What Karen didn't know, and what I hadn't advertised, was that I wasn't just any homeowner. I was the regional director of code enforcement, overseeing every inspector in the Tri-County area. I'd kept my job quiet, preferring to blend in as just another neighbor. But Karen's vendetta was about to change that. Friday morning arrived, and with it, a young inspector named Clara, a new hire I'd trained myself. She was sharp, meticulous, and blissfully unaware of the drama unfolding. As she measured the shed, Karen hovered nearby, arms crossed, her face a mask of triumph. "You'll find he's violated at least 3 codes, she declared loudly, ensuring the neighbors peeking through their curtains could hear. "I've done my research." Clara glanced at her, then at me, her expression neutral. "Sir, everything looks in order so far. Can you confirm the square footage?" 85 square feet, I said calmly. "Well under the limit." Karen snorted. "That's impossible. I know the codes better than you." I couldn't resist. "Actually, Karen, I think I know them a bit better. I'm the regional director of code enforcement." The crowd fell silent. Karen's jaw dropped, her eyes wide with disbelief. "You're what?" "Regional director," I repeated, my voice calm but firm. "I oversee every inspection in this region. And I can assure you, my shed is legal." The twist didn't end there. Clara, ever thorough, turned to Karen. "Ma'am, while I'm here, I noticed your fence is over the height limit by 6 inches. And your mailbox is obstructing the sidewalk. You'll need to address those within 30 days, or you'll face fines." Karen's face went from red to purple, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The neighbors, now openly watching, stifled laughter. But then came the unexpected, a soft voice from the crowd. It was Mrs. Nguyen, the elderly widow who lived next to Karen. She stepped forward, her hands trembling but her voice clear. "Miss Milford," she said, "you reported my son's food truck last month for parking on the street. You said it was a public nuisance. It cost him his business. He had to move away to find work." Her eyes glistened with tears. "You didn't even apologize." The crowd murmured, heads nodding. Another neighbor, Mr. Patel, spoke up. "You called the city on my daughter's lemonade stand, Karen. She was 7. The stories poured out. Karen's campaign of complaints had targeted nearly everyone on the street, from kids' basketball hoops to holiday decorations. She'd weaponized the system, thinking herself untouchable. Karen stammered. "I was just enforcing the rules. This neighborhood has standards." "Standards?" I said, stepping closer. "You went through my trash, Karen. You harassed your neighbors. That's not standards, that's obsession." Clara, sensing the tension, cleared her throat. "Ms. Milford, I'll need to schedule a full inspection of your property next week. We've had multiple complaints." She glanced at the neighbors, who nodded grimly. Karen's reign of terror had just met its match. The fallout was swift. Karen's property inspection uncovered a litany of violations: unpermitted deck extensions, an illegal rental unit in her basement, even a hazardous electrical setup. Fines piled up, and the city issued a cease and desist on her rental income. The neighborhood, once cowed by her threats, rallied together, sharing stories and evidence. Karen's complaints had been her armor. Now, they were her undoing. Weeks later, I sat on my porch, sipping coffee as movers loaded boxes into a truck across the street. Karen's house was for sale. She couldn't afford the fines and repairs. She stood on her lawn, her once fearsome scowl replaced by a look of defeat. Mrs. Nguyen walked by, pausing to offer her a small, sad smile. "Maybe next time, you'll think before you hurt people," she said softly, then continued on her way. I didn't gloat. There was no need. The universe, or maybe just Maplewood Lane, had spoken. Karen climbed into her car, her muumuu crumpled, and drove off. The street felt lighter, as if it could breathe again. "Yendi,"